Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is Tom Pies. Today, we're honored to have Blane Dessy. And Blane is the director of the Erie County Public Library. Dwayne, this has to be one of my favorite places to go to and to enjoy in the greater Northwest Pennsylvania area. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's also an honor for me to be speaking with you, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, the library, didn't they come up with some kind of grading system to determine what were the community assets in Northwest Pennsylvania, particularly the city of Erie? And I can't imagine they missed, I hope they did not miss the Erie County Public Library. The downtown facility is exemplary. It's beautiful.
Yes, I can't verify whether we are on the official list or not. However, I certainly consider the Erie County Public Library one of the major assets in Erie County.
Well, you have two votes already.
Pardon me?
You have two votes already, yours and mine.
Well, and actually, that's actually, an interesting point you bring up, because it really drives a lot of my own thinking about how we move into the future. And that is assuming or believing that this library is a major asset to the county. How do we continue to ensure that? How do we continue to ensure that this library becomes even more of a critical asset, and that we're really doing what we need to be doing to retain that? And so I think of us as a critical asset, not only in terms of the county, but even more, particularly for the Bayfront.
Absolutely.
And as we talk about the Bayfront redevelopment and everything that's going on here, I do have questions about what is the future of the library on the Bayfront, or how could we enhance the role of the library as part of this new Erie Bayfront?
Well, oh my gosh, talk about economic development, county development, city development. You just opened up many avenues that we can pursue during this interview. But for half a second, though, I would like to introduce you to the community. You're not new to the community. You've been in your position now, a couple of years now? Has it been already?
Actually, I began in the spring of 2019.
Okay.
So actually, I've been in the job probably about 18 months.
Okay, we're close, but I'd like people to know you and understand why you're in the position you are in as director of the Erie County Public Library. Now, you retired actually before coming here. Do I have that right?
I did. I am technically a federal government retiree. I retired after almost 30 years with the federal government, having worked in 3 different government agencies in Washington, D.C. Upon my retirement, I decided I would like to be closer to family and friends,
Wonderful.
Which brought me to Erie, Pennsylvania. And when I came to Erie, it was never my intention to work in again, or to work in a library. I mean, I was a retiree, and so I was just sort of minding my own business until I saw this position open up, and that really got me thinking.
Well, so that people know a little bit about your history, you were with the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. I believe 3 positions there? From say 2010 forward.
When I was at the Library of Congress, I started as the director of what we call the Federal Library Network, which is an organization of about 1,400 libraries around the world. And after that, I became the director of national enterprises at the Library of Congress, where I was responsible not only for the network, but also for the publishing office, the retail office, and the research program in Washington,
Absolutely,
D.C.
Right. How does one get involved? Well, let's go back. You've been doing your position Prior to that, you were with the U.S. Department of Justice as a library staff
Prior to
director?
being at the Library of Congress,
Yeah.
I was the director of libraries at the United States Department of Justice. Nobody thinks that the Department of Justice has libraries.
I can't imagine them not having a library.
Well, you're better informed than most, but it's interesting because when you look at the totality of the Department of Justice, it has over 300 separate libraries as part of it.
Scattered across the country or?
Scattered across the country and around the world.
Around the world. You mentioned that phrase twice already. Now, as I go back to we can delve into your prior history, and it's long, and certainly you're incredibly qualified to do what you do. And we are, with reviewing your resume, we're very fortunate to have you here, if I could say that. Your expertise and your background is, to me, overwhelming. This is fascinating. And you did start out in Pennsylvania, I think, right?
Pardon me?
And you did start somewhere in Pennsylvania, right?
Well, yes. Actually, I'm a native of Pittsburgh. I was born and raised not too far from the Cathedral of Learning, actually, in Oakland.
Marvelous.
And received and went through, elementary school and high school there. I went to Indiana University of Pennsylvania and then the University of Pittsburgh for my graduate training. But my first professional position post-graduate school was as a public library director in central Pennsylvania. And so in a very interesting way, coming back to Pennsylvania and assuming this position has actually bookended my career.
And you wandered as far away as Oklahoma City, Columbus, Ohio, Montgomery, Alabama. You've made the circuit. I didn't realize the library business was so not transient, but that you could move that far.
Well, most librarians don't, but I had sort of figured out for myself. I had a very distinct career path that I wanted to pursue, which would require me to be mobile. And so I was a public library director in the beginning, and then I went to work for a state library in Oklahoma because I wanted to work at the state level, not just the local municipal level. And from there, I went to the State Library of Ohio and then Alabama. So I spent well over a dozen years working in state government. And then when you're in state government, of course, you learn about the federal government because so much of your work is interconnected with what's going on. And so actually, when I was working in state government, I was recruited to work in the federal government. I was working in Montgomery, Alabama, and I received a call from Washington, D.C., asking me if I would be interested in moving to Washington and working for the federal government. And that's how that came about.
Well, librarians, you were more of an executive level person. Do you folks meet together?
My formal training is in librarianship, but I've spent my entire career in management positions and in executive positions. When I was in the federal government, I was a member of what's called the Senior Executive Service. And so I was able to do a lot of different things because of that. So, for example, when I was at the Department of Justice, I was the director of libraries. But for different periods of time, I was reassigned. So for a while, I was the director of human resources at the Department of Justice. I was the director of the EEO office at the Department of Justice, and I was also the director of facilities and buildings at the department. So, I'm very familiar with bureaucracy. And, in a way, I was glad to have those opportunities because it really took me out of, what we call our comfort zone. But actually, I love to learn, and actually I felt the more I could learn about how our government works, the better an employee I would be. So I bring a lot of that to this position as well. I'm at county government now, but I still have all those lessons learned from the federal government and how we would do things that I can sort of infuse into this job when it's appropriate.
Now, your career spans a good amount of time, and I say that with all
I'm
honor
very old.
and well, you and I both, with all honor and dignity. But my first Erie County Public Library card here had a little metal strip on it. So, looking at your resume,
Exactly.
you probably have an incredible story to tell about the digitization or the infusion of technology into library science.
Oh, exactly. Well, when I was a kid and using libraries, and when I first started working in libraries, there was no technology. I mean,
Right.
our most sophisticated technology was an IBM Selectric 2 typewriter and the Dewey Decimal System, and everything was done by hand or it was done on a typewriter. And so I was there when technology first began to be implemented in libraries. And I mean, I had to go back and take lots of classes so that I could bring myself up to speed on just what these changes were. And by no stretch of the imagination am I a tech person. I mean, the technology has gotten so sophisticated and so ubiquitous that it's impossible for me to keep up with it.
I'm imagining the day, and I'm sure this will happen at all the big jumbo stores where you'll walk right out and everything will scan and identify you, the book, and everything. And this will
Well, in
happen
fact,
in the supermarkets shortly. I don't think people realize this, but
well, I mean,
yeah.
isn't it Apple or Amazon that already has some of
Yes.
these pilot stores where
Yes.
you simply go in and you just fill your cart and you just walk out?
Yeah, I still can't imagine the monetary aspect of that because I'm
No,
I'm
nor
not
can I.
sure.
And,
Yeah, how they stop you if they discover your card is bounced.
well, and there's, I also, because I am so old, I kind of mourn the loss of the human contact, talking to the clerk for a couple of minutes or just seeing other. I mean, I don't know that I want to live in such an automated world that I can't really have those kinds of personal interactions on a daily basis. I suppose
Right.
I'll get used to it like everyone else. But, again, and this is my age showing, I kind of like that human touch.
Well, that's the value of the library because you can go to the library and ask any type of question. They're so cordial and they're there
Well,
to help.
you can ask any type of question. We welcome everyone into the library, regardless of who you are. We are an equal opportunity zone for everyone. No question is too odd. No question is too strange. We are here, and oftentimes, what we find out is that in talking with our library users, we help them to refine their thinking. And so a person may come in and ask for something, and in the course of trying to find the best answer for them, we may ask one or two clarifying questions. What are you looking for specifically? Are you looking for a particular part of the world? Are you looking for a particular time period? And there's that whole sort of what we call the reference interview, which helps that person to sort of clarify their thinking so that we can provide a more accurate answer to them. So in fact, there's been some literature written recently about the library as a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based upon this school of thought called conversation theory, which is all learning occurs as a result of conversation. Mm-hmm. And because we are helping people every day, we're conversing with them. And as a result of that, we're helping them to learn or to find information.
We're talking with Blane Dessy, Director of the Erie County Public Library. Can we go back to your opening remarks? You offered a range of topics, actually, but the concept that the library, all our libraries are community place. Is that what you're driving at? Is that where you are going? Is it,
I am, and here's why this idea really strikes a chord with me at this time. When I moved to Erie, I was very pleasantly surprised by how much what would you call it, civic energy or community energy there is in the community. I mean, there was this desire on the part of so many people to restore Erie, to bring Erie back, that we are not a typical Rust Belt city, that Erie has a long history to be proud of. We have lots of wonderful assets here that need to be maximized. And frankly, it was that sense of energy that made this position so attractive to me. Because I thought to myself, with all this energy and with all this positive motion going forward, how do we take something as important as this library and make that part of the mix? Right? That we as a library do not want to be on the periphery. You know, we just don't want to be a nice building down on the bay front that people like to come to. We have so much more to offer. So how do we sort of become part of that larger community activism to really make Erie more robust, bring back, you know, some of its you know, better days? How does the library contribute to the quality of life in new ways? That's what I'm interested in.
and your board? What are their
My
thoughts?
My board is very interested. We have a library advisory board that is made up of 9 people. They are appointed by both the county council and also by the county executive. And so each county council district is represented on my board, as well as 2 at-large members. And to me, that's very important, because we need to ensure, as part of our mission, that we are serving as many people throughout Erie County. You know, it's kind of interesting when I think about the city of Erie and Erie County. And oftentimes, it seems to me when people talk about Erie, they're talking about the city. And that's fine. I mean, that's perfectly appropriate for whatever conversation that is. My mission, our mission, is that we need to be providing services to all of Erie County. So I am very cognizant of the fact that my board represents all of Erie County. And as we make plans for the future, as we talk about how to remain relevant, as we talk about how to improve quality of life, it really is meant to be directed to all the residents of Erie County, not just those within the city limits. So as part of our strategic plan, which we're now working on, I am very conscious of those parts of the county outside of the city. For example, we're procuring a new bookmobile now to replace our current one. But it's not enough to say that we have a new bookmobile. What we really need to be doing is making sure that that bookmobile is going to the right places throughout all of Erie County. And so in addition to the new bookmobile, we are examining all of our bookmobile routes. We're looking at the kinds of materials that go into the bookmobile. We're looking at the types of services that we provide out of the bookmobile, because we have a commitment to every single person in Erie County, whether you're in the heart of the city or whether you're on a farm or in a small community elsewhere. We need to be able to make a commitment to everyone in some way.
We're in an interesting era, the COVID-19 era, as some call it. How is the Erie County Public Library managing this whole scenario?
Well, it's been very tricky, as you might imagine, but it's tricky for everyone. And we have been trying to do as much as we can do while obeying all the health regulations and the state guidelines and things like that. For a while, we were shut down like everybody else. We then began to slowly reopen with what we called curbside service. Then we began with lobby service. And now the libraries, our main library, Blasco, and our 4 branches are completely open to the public. We're maintaining our regular hours. And people are coming in and using the libraries. Now, we're not seeing the amount of foot traffic because we're not doing programs, because we can't have large groups of people. So our foot traffic has decreased, but we are seeing people come in regularly to borrow books, to ask reference questions, to do genealogy research, to bring their children in. And so we are, as I think, close to a normal operating situation as we can possibly be given COVID-19. But what this health pandemic has really caused us to do is to rethink our place in the digital world. And so rather than sort of being an afterthought, now when we talk about our services and our programming, we really talk about them more as digital services than as in-person services. So, for example, we're talking about the types of public programming that we want to conduct in 2021. Well, in the past, that would have been all in person. We would have thrown open our doors. We would have invited people in. And people in Erie might have come to Blasco, or people in Edinburgh might have gone to the Edinburgh branch. But when you begin to plan for all that digitally, it makes you think about it in a much different way, because suddenly you realize that anybody who can log on anywhere can be a part of that program. And so it makes you think about how you market it differently, how you present it differently, how you perhaps record it for future use. So this COVID-19 has really caused us to dramatically rethink the kinds of materials we're buying, more digital, less print, programming, more digital, less in person. So it's been a very interesting time, and this is not unique to us. Every public library is facing the same set of circumstances. So there's a lot being written about this, and I think we're doing the very best that we can. But it does point to a new future for us.
You have a wonderful support group, the Friends of the Erie County Library.
Yes, we do.
They are fantastic. I'm going to let you talk about that, please.
The Friends of the Library, the Friends of the Erie County Public Library, are a wonderful support group. We, as the county library, are a part of county government. We are a municipal agency. The Friends of the Erie County Public Library are a separate nonprofit. They are, what's known as a 501c3. They hold many book sales and other types of fundraising activities throughout the year in order to raise money to give to us to underwrite our programming costs. So we get most of our money from the county and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But we don't get money to support our programming, whether it's for children or teens or adults. All of that money, and it's generally at least $100,000 a year, is
Yeah.
gifted to us by the Friends of the Erie County Public Library. When we think about the Friends, we think of a small group of people, and they do have a board of directors. But their total membership is almost 400 people, and they're always looking for new members. And then, of course, when they have their book sales, many hundreds of people show up for those. So they are a great support. Without the Friends of the Erie County Public Library, we could not be doing much of what we do. We work very closely with them. We have a very good relationship with them, and they are really invaluable to our success.
Blane Dessy, as director of the Erie County Public Library, things are changing rapidly. What do you see, say, for the next year or two, or maybe even in 5 years? What are your thoughts about the direction the Erie County Public Library needs to go?
Boy, there are so many trends, Tom, that we need to be addressing. One certainly is the increasing demand for digital services to our users. Public libraries nationwide, again, we're not unique, are seeing decreases in the number of people who come into the library and people who check out books. Those have been two traditional measurements that we have always used to measure success. How many people visit, how many books do they leave with? That has been our golden standard. With the electronic age, that's changing. So our new metrics are things like how many audio books are being downloaded, how many virtual programs are we offering to people. That is going to become more and more critical. Now, I'm old enough and I'm old-fashioned enough to know that we will always need a space. There will always need to be this community space for people. So I'm never going to suggest we shut libraries. But I do think we are going to see more and more digital usage of libraries. And I think as our technology, our meeting technology and our programming technology becomes more sophisticated, I think you'll see even more than that. The other thing that I think we need to be paying particular attention to, and this really is, it's a combination of many factors. I mean, not the least of which is just the social unrest in the country today. Is I think we need to be paying more attention to those people that we have not traditionally served or that we may have overlooked in some fashion. Our main library here is in the East Bayfront area. We really need to be thinking ahead and thinking about what can the library, as a critical asset, do to address inequity in education, in other social issues. How do we become an important part of people's lives to where we can make a difference in the quality of life for all Erie residents? And I think that's something that is going to be expected of us more and more. You know, the county just passed the statement on racism as a public health issue. So we received that, and I've just appointed an internal committee for us to study how do we, as a public library, as a public asset, think about these issues and what is our response to that? How do we begin to make a difference in people's lives that we have not been able to make before? I think that's going to become critically important.
Well, we'll have to end this conversation with that question. So what we'll do then is we'll offer you an invitation to come back again. We sincerely appreciate this audio visit. Blane Dessy, the director of the Erie County Public Library, thank you so much for visiting on air here at WQLN.
Tom, thank you so much for the invitation. It's always a great opportunity for us to be able to communicate what we do and why we do it. So I am very appreciative of you reaching out to me, and I'd be happy to do this again whenever you would like me to.
Thank you for being a guest on the program.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
I'm Michelle Martin. These days it seems like just about everybody is choosing sides and doubling down on talking points. Here at NPR, we try to cut through the noise with meaningful and respectful discussions with people from all perspectives, backgrounds, and walks of life. Join the conversation every weekend on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Saturday and Sunday afternoons at 5 on WQLN Radio.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is Tom Pies, and we're celebrating our 16th year. And in honor of this bit of history, we're going to have a special guest today, Becky Weiser, who's the curator of the Hagen History Center, and that's part of the Erie County Historical Society. Becky, do I have that right?
Yes,
you are. Yeah, well, welcome to the program. We're certainly thrilled to have you here. We're looking to update all the information you kindly offered us in your last interview. And as we record this, we'd like to say that We Question and Learn is broadcast on WQLN Radio the first Sunday of every month at 4. And we're also podcast on NPR One. You can find about a year's worth of programs there. And we are also on 7 more podcast venues. So we're not hard to find, and the programs are very easy to listen to. And Becky, what a thrill to have you here today. We were looking at your resume. Maybe you could give us a brief outline of where have you been and how the heck did you get to the Erie County Historical Society, if we could ask.
All right, Tom. Well, thank you for having me on the show. It's always great fun to talk to you.
Thank you.
My resume, well, I do have a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science with a minor in History. And then I went on to get my teaching certification in secondary ed history. And I ended up teaching for a few years, not locally, but I did teach American history. And then that was out of town, so I came back to Erie, got my master's degree in communication studies. And then I've taken museum studies courses at Mercyhurst University. And it all started because of my third grade teachers, whom I credit all of this to. I've always loved history. She was a woman. I think I took a book out of the library on Abraham Lincoln, and she encouraged me to keep reading about Abraham Lincoln. And he's still a love of mine, as a matter of fact, my boyfriend, the President Lincoln. And it's just something that I've always enjoyed. I've always enjoyed antiques as well. So about 3 years ago, well, actually longer than 3 years ago now, I saw an opportunity that there was a need here at the Hagen History Center for a curator. And so I volunteered initially and eventually got the job. So that's how I'm here, and I absolutely love doing what I do.
Well, your personal passion and your work passion are pretty much related. If I'm understanding this, you folks have done a lot of work since you've been on the air here the last time. First of all, tell us, what's the main, for folks who are not from Erie, what's the main building? What's your main facility?
Our main building is the Watson Curtsey Mansion. It was a beautiful mansion built in 1892. It was owned by two families, the Watsons and the Curtseys. Mm-hmm. And we have it opened sort of partial historic home museum, partial exhibits, and we also host events here, and it's just a spectacular space. Behind that mansion is the carriage house, and that's where our administrative offices are. We've got a gift shop. We have a research library. We have a lot of people that come in and do research on not only genealogy, but local history and all kinds of history. Behind that is an archive building where it's a huge 10,000 square feet space where we'll have all of our books and documents, and now the three-dimensional storage is there too, which is wonderful because we can find things. It's all together in one space. To the right, as you're on 6th Street and you look at our mansion, to the right of that is the Wood Morrison house that was purchased a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that space is being developed into exhibits on the first floor, and the second floor is educational space. And then in between the carriage house and that building is our new exhibit building, which hasn't been developed, but we haven't been able to open yet, sadly, due to the pandemic.
You have 7 new galleries. Do I understand that correctly? And these artifacts, these collections are of national significance. Am I right?
Oh my goodness, yes, Tom. Probably something that most people think of when they think of us, it would be the Wayne pot.
Mm-hmm.
This is a kettle that most kids,
Mm-hmm.
you and I, maybe when we were in school, we'd come in for a field trip, and it's this huge cast iron kettle that the bones of Anthony Wayne were boiled in.
Oh, gee.
Oh yeah, it's a great story, and the school kids, their eyes get bigger and bigger as you're telling the story.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we have that on exhibit, and we have Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry's sword here. We've got gowns from the Gilded Age. They're just spectacular things. We have things that were manufactured here in Erie. We just have so many wonderful things that help define us as a community on exhibit right now.
Now, we came through and you had sort of a warehouse scenario going. It was fascinating. I couldn't stop looking at everything you had on the shelves. But you were in a massive reorganization, sorting through. You folks were working feverishly to get everything all organized.
Yes.
How did that work? These items were stored someplace, or they were stored there and your project was to catalog everything? Do I have that right?
Well, yeah, you do. We had everything stored in off-site storage, all the three-dimensional things, all the antiques.
Okay, they weren't there.
So,
they were elsewhere.
No.
Yeah, wow.
No, they weren't here. So what we've done, and it's taken us 3 years to move everything to identify if this is something that we need to keep in our collection or not keep. And the things that we're keeping, and we're keeping about 14,000 things.
Oh my.
That's all, just 14,000.
Oh. So there were
And
obviously more items than 14,000.
Yes. Yes.
I can't imagine how many items were there because we just saw everything. It was overwhelming. We thought it was. We admired you for taking on the project.
Well, thank you. Well, it's been quite a ride. We've taken.
It's like going
all
to
of
a
the
rummage
14
sale. You wish you could keep everything, but
I do. We.
But you juried
after
everything.
I've gone through the. Well, we had to look at everything.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep it all. And again, we've had so many generous people donating all kinds of things to us. But now we've had to take a hard look at them and going, does this thing really help define us and our history? Or is it something that was just used here?
And
So the things,
certain items have a defined historical value. They're probably priceless to some degree.
oh my gosh, yes. We have antiquities here. We have things from the early part of American history, all the way up to more current things. And some of it belongs, and some of it, there's a better home for it elsewhere. So we've taken a look at all of that. And then the most exciting part is that the things that we are keeping, of those 14,000 things, is now in a database. And I've used warehouse technology, so I'm barcoding containers and barcoding objects. And the goal, and we've proven this multiple times, is that if someone comes in here and wants to see a particular thing, in 10 minutes we can have it in their hands.
That's phenomenal. With that said, how many people did you have involved? I guess it's easy for me because I walked through there, but I have to relay to the audience how amazing, how difficult this was.
This was
Just to choose and decide.
Right.
Now, you're not discarding things.
No.
No.
And I can
So people
explain
don't
that process.
panic. Yes, please.
Oh, gosh, no.
Yeah.
No, you just don't do that in museums. We don't throw
No.
anything.
No,
out
this is
unless-
not stuff that's going to some yard sale someplace or being discarded in any way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was not just me doing this work. That's for sure. I have a lovely assistant, Amanda, who works here part-time, and she's my go-to person on so many of these projects. I've also had many interns from a variety of colleges and universities in the area that have worked with me. And the heart and soul of this organization, like many nonprofits, is our volunteers. And I've worked with about 30 phenomenal people, and some have worked with me since I've been on staff, and some are newer. It doesn't matter. They are just a dedicated group of people that have helped me through this whole process. Unfortunately, again, with the pandemic, I can't have many volunteers here,
Yes.
one at a time.
Yeah.
So
the cataloging system, this is science that you've appropriated from somewhere else? Did you have to start from scratch just because of the nature of the collection and the items that are there? How did you, that would be a challenge. I'm trying to imagine walking into a giant warehouse with all these valuable artifacts, having to judge them, catalog them, and you say they're all barcoded as well?
they are, yeah.
Wow.
Well, there is software designed for museums
Okay.
to help with this process. I mean, not with the decision-making process, but with the organizational process.
So here's the other secret. There's a judgment call that's involved here. So you pick up an item, it may have a small label on it, maybe a sewing and address of some sort that partially identifies it. So you have to start with scratch with a lot of these items or some of these items?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, what we've done is we have the original accession records, which is the donation record. This organization, in multiple forms, has been collecting since 1898
Oh, my.
different things.
Oh, my.
So we have books handwritten from 1898 all the way through to the current days. Now they're not handwritten, but you
Sure.
go back to that object's original donation and try to find the story on why this thing is here. And some of these things have fascinating stories, and some of them have nothing at all. But you have to research that first, and then you go and you look at the actual thing and try to determine its significance, to our community's history.
So
and
that takes a great deal of knowledge. Beyond knowledge, you have to research all this so you don't accidentally. Well, you can't discard anything till you know what it is.
No.
Oh my gosh! So how far along in that how far are you in that process?
We've looked at everything now.
You have
and
already since the last time we talked.
have.
Okay.
It's taken 3 years. We've looked at everything, and then the process has begun on now parting with the things that we're not going to keep. And the first step in that
Yes.
was I made available to all the local historical societies. So there's a group in Erie called Erie Yesterday, and it has all like the Harbor Creek Historical Society and Northeast and
Yes.
all over. So I've invited them, Crawford County Historical Society, Jamestown, Ashtabula, and they've all come and picked out things that I don't feel belongs here, but maybe they have a need for. And so that was the first step, and I gave them those things.
Well, once again, nothing is discarded.
Correct.
Right.
Right. So now these things are finding a better home, that most historical societies are bursting at the seams like us, but there's still need for future exhibits or for furnishing their historic location. So that was number one step. And then the second step which just happened a few weeks ago, is that we auctioned off a group of furniture mainly, and the money going for the care of what we're keeping in the collection.
I can't imagine storing furniture.
It's not a pretty sight.
You built a wonderful building there. But with that said, you'd probably need a city block to store.
Yeah, we're full.
We're full, yeah.
We
And the furniture was judiciously auctioned off then.
It was.
Okay.
It was.
Collectors mostly come by? I'm imagining this beautiful antique roadshow type scenario.
Well, a lot of it was furniture in need of care. The finer pieces we are keeping.
Okay. Gotcha.
So
yeah.
These are things that we cannot afford to repair. We probably have 50 or 60 just like dining room chairs. Well, there's no way I'm going to exhibit, that many chairs and have them reupholstered or have the woodwork repaired or the caning done.
Yes.
So they all went to, I'm sure, much better homes, collectors or, I don't know, people that are in that business. Some beautiful pieces went, and I hated to have it go, but we just don't have the facilities to keep it.
Well, what you're saying is they went to a good home, a collector or maybe another museum, someone,
right,
quotation marks, in the business. So they're not discarded in any way. They weren't hurt in any way. Maybe some have actually, right now, they're being refurbished.
Right.
Yeah, great. Oh, okay. What a project.
Yeah, they're being loved, and they deserve to be loved. So that was phase one. We're going to have other auctions coming up. Now I have the smaller things, boxes and boxes of smaller things. And again, we've been so lucky here having people donate things to us, and it's just been wonderful. It just over time, it accumulates. And I still have people that want to donate things.
Well, as you know, our families in the community go back to, like you said, 1898
right.
and prior. Oh, my gosh, way prior.
Yeah.
And so there's probably some interesting things that are still out in the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love those kind of phone calls. People send me emails of saying, do you want this? And then sometimes when they give me the story of a particular object, I get all excited. I'm like, yes, of course we'll take it. And we'll care for it. And we'll keep it. And
now
so
you need another
goal.
Building.
We may. That's okay.
That's okay. You can live with that. In this COVID area, what are your hours like? Or do you have how are you managing a beautiful facility as the Hagen History Center in this COVID era? What are your protocols right now?
Yeah, Tom, it's been really tough.
Yeah.
We can only remain open to the public. Right now we're open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it has to be only so many people at a time in our mansion. Even though it's a very large building, we can't have big crowds of people. So that's been tough. Also, we have a driving tour available right now.
Oh.
In October it's been, and in November.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, we've had a walking tour, which has been fantastic. But again, that's a big group of people going inside of a lot of buildings quite often. So now people at their leisure can come and for $10 get a driving tour and a book. A beautiful edition comes with the tour, and then they can take it at any time on their own.
Oh, that's what a fabulous idea.
Mm-hmm.
You're open, yet not open.
Yes.
So Monday through Thursday, the pandemic has caused you to be closed. Friday and Saturday, maybe 11 to 5. Do I have that right?
It is 11 to 5 on Friday through Sunday.
And then you have
and then those are the days that
Friday through Sunday.
People pop in, and pick up the driving tour. They can tour our mansion. Unfortunately, they can't go through our other new buildings right now because everything has sort of been placed on hold with that.
And I'm sure you have careful protocols as you have people walk through or visit.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. Everyone has to wear masks. And, we do limit the amount of people that go through at any one time.
Keep everybody. Now, with all that said, do you still have exhibits? Are you still bringing things to the floor of the Watson-Curtsey Mansion?
Yes, we have worked out with a local group of artists to sort of expand the celebration of women's suffrage. We've had our own suffrage exhibit in the ballroom of the mansion, but now that has been taken down partially, and now we're bringing in an art exhibit of celebrating suffrage, and local artists from, I understand, from ages 12 to maybe in their 80s have produced these mannequins and have decorated them, created them to celebrate the women's right to vote. So we have that going on.
Fabulous.
And then as we get closer to Christmas, I believe our Victorian holidays will be happening, where we'll decorate the mansion for Christmas.
That's a yearly event, right?
It is,
in case people catch this interview later. Okay, that's great. The Erie Historical Society, boy, you know what? I apologize. I had the year written down when it was founded, but forgive me, I've lost it. But this is truly a community asset. It's of huge value. It's of huge educational value. What's your favorite part of the museum?
My favorite part. Oh, boy.
I was good. I tried to set you up for this by letting you know that everybody loves you and loves the work you've done. And this is just a fabulous place for anyone from anywhere in the world to visit. You and I know that. We're a bit prejudiced, but truly it is a world treasure. But certainly with the years that you've worked there, you must have something that, and I know you're an antique collector like I am, although I'm jealous because you get to touch hundreds of items probably in a week, and I just get to look at them. But there must be something there that's near and dear to your heart for all the time you've spent at the museum.
Well, it is hard to play favorites because I do love it all. I do. I am particularly fond of our Griswold cast iron.
Oh,
collection.
you and me both. Okay, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
It's no secret.
Yeah.
I love that iron. It was made in Erie. It was sold nationally, probably internationally. I've seen it in Canada. And it's just a phenomenal collection. And I've had the great pleasure of meeting some of the collector groups that have come through. And these people are just on fire, and I love it. I also love the gowns and the clothing that we have. I mean, the spectacular. Again, not everybody lives this way. The high-end kind of things that we have. Love that stuff. Love the handwork, some of the artwork that these people created, whether in quilting or embroidery or just.
And judging by our history here in Northwest Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania, there's probably some things that are not found anywhere else because of our history.
Absolutely, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have some very unique pieces in our collection here, and a lot of that, can be studied here. It's harder now with the pandemic that allow people to come in and actually handle things. But that's one of our goals, is to have more study sessions available.
Oh, what a great
objects.
idea. Yeah.
In the meantime, we're working on a digital concept of that. So that is in the planning stages now, to sort of focus on maybe one thing at a time and let people sort of get excited about different things that we have here, things that you don't see when you're walking through necessarily.
I'm sure before the pandemic, you did a great amount of work with the local schools and universities. Am I right? I'm thinking of students of any type, and that would be a student of life, being able to come by and learn something by working with it, touching it. You maybe do an exhibit or a show of. Am I right?
Yes.
A session, so to speak.
Some of my volunteers have just been taking an object and just diving into the research.
Wow.
And I have one in particular, a gentleman, Bob, if he's listening, who is our premier researcher, and he will just take things to the nth degree and gets all excited and has to tell everybody all about it. And it's wonderful having that kind of enthusiasm and story added to each and everything that we have here.
My gosh, as great a job as our teachers in the community and all the schools and the universities, as much as they do a great job, there's nothing more valuable than seeing or touching something and being able to do that. So the students, would they come in and have classes or just tours? How did that work?
Yes, we've had students come for both things. They've had tours
Okay.
here,
Yeah.
and then and this was again before the pandemic,
Right,
and then
before,
we
yeah.
had some students coming through where we had different stations set up.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
They would actually, like one of the stations was on actually handling some of these antique gowns, not the ones I'm keeping in the collection, but ones that have sort of disintegrated to a point where they're not exhibitable anymore.
I see. Yeah.
And we give the students gloves, and they're actually able to examine this and try to figure out how old this is based on pictures that we had around the room and different stories. For example, we have a black gown that was late 1860s.
That's fascinating.
And so they'd have to think, okay, now what happened in that time period? Why would a black gown be something someone wore? And then we talked about the Civil War and people dying, and this is how people express themselves. So we can get into all these different concepts, which is a ton of fun working with these kids. Again, I'm trying to sort of light that fire under them using the objects that we have.
Let's talk for the last topic. How is the organization set up? You have your staff, a team that keeps everything going, and a board.
Yes.
How do you interface?
We do have a board of directors,
Okay, sure.
and they're sort of like the top overlying directors of all of us. They are in charge of keeping everything rolling. They don't get into the day-to-day,
Right.
but they certainly help us. And then we have a director, and again, a lot of his job is, being out in the community and helping with fundraising, because we do need
Got to do that.
money to keep everything rolling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking to the right people here.
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
Right, Tom.
And with the limited hours and, of course, all the safety procedures that you exercise, it's sort of tough for people to come by. But we're hoping all this pandemic stuff goes away. You seem to have managed a reasonable amount of hours so that you're not isolated from the community. What do you have an online museum? I can't think of a better statement.
Yes.
Oh, good. Tell us about that.
We do have a website, and every week I write a blog, and I think I've written 30 some of them now, on just one little aspect of Erie County history.
Wonderful.
And it's been a ton of fun. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from groups or people, because so much of our history, it's exciting stuff. We have grown from this community with just full of trees and some native peoples that would wander through and hunt.
Yes.
And there were a couple little villages, but not much, to the community that we are today.
Becky Weiser, sorry to say we're out of time. Curator of the Hagen History Center, the Erie County Historical Society. Thank you very much.